Hi, I'm Terry and I'm nuts about stamping. I'm back today with another Sundays with Sizzix project. I am going to make a card for somebody special to tell that person that he or she is absolutely amazing. And I'm going to use my Big Shot to help me with that. I'm going to use my Big Shot to start off with, and then I'll show you the rest of the components of the card and how I'm going to pull it together. So I have a layer of baked brown sugar that I'm going to run through my Big Shot using the Fancy Fan embossing folder. So I'm going to tuck the cardstock inside the folder, make sure it's nice and straight. I've got my bottom standard cutting pad. I've got my platform on tab 1, bottom standard cutting pad. I'm going to put my embossing folder with the cardstock inside on top. Top standard cutting pad, and then run it through. And then the next thing I'm going to do, let me show you this layer first so you can see how beautiful it is. There we go. So then the next thing I'm going to do is bring in my magnetic platform, and I'm going to die cut out 2 stars. And I'm going to use my stars framelits for that. I have a piece of scrap cherry cobbler cardstock, and I'm going to put on the larger star framelit that I've chosen out of the pack. And I'm going to run that through, die cut out the star. And then I am going to take the one size smaller star from the stars framelits, a piece of scrap baked brown sugar cardstock, and I'm going to run that through. And then I am finished with my Big Shot. Okay, so I've got my 2 stars like that, and I have got my embossed layer using the Fancy Fan folder. Alright, so now I'm going to add a couple of more elements and put my card together. So I have a piece of early espresso cardstock, and that is going to be my card base. It's 8.5 by 5.5. I scored it on my Simply Scored at the 4 1/4 mark. That's going to be my card base. Now before I attach my Fancy Fan layer, I am going to bring in my cherry cobbler ink pad. And we sell these amazing stamping sponges, and what I have done is cut a stamping sponge into several different triangles so I can use several different colors. And I'm just going to dip the sponge in the ink pad, which means this color will now be staining my sponge and will need to be dedicated to cherry cobbler from this point forward. And I'm just going to age up the edges of this layer because I want my card to be sort of vintage in flavor. So you can add as much or as little as you want. I like a fair bit. Okay. And now I'm going to bring in my snail adhesive. Put snail on the back of the layer. Sorry about that, I ran out of adhesive. Of course, that only happens when you're videoing yourself. Right, so I am going to put this layer on my card front, like so. Now, to that, I'm going to add a layer of early espresso. It's cut, I think it's 2 1/4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to layer that sort of through the center of the card front, like so. And then I have got a layer of baked brown sugar again, and what I'm going to do is bring back in my cherry cobbler ink And I'd like to introduce to you a brand new stamp set from the Occasions catalog. It's called Painted Petals. And I've taken this phrase that says, "You are amazingly amazing." I've mounted it, and I'm going to ink it up using my cherry cobbler, and then I'm going to stamp it down. And there we go. You are amazingly amazing. And then I am going to bring in another stamp. This is from the Gorgeous Grunge stamp set. I've got the one with the sort of dots all over it, and I'm going to ink it up using my cherry cobbler ink, and I'm just going to add a couple of dots from this set. Again, it adds more of a vintage look, and I'm going to bring back in my sponge, and I'm going to sponge around the edge like so. And then I'm going to attach this to my early espresso layer that I have already attached to my card front. So I'll bring in my snail adhesive. And let me bring this closer to me so I can get it nice and straight, and then I'll just show it. And there we go. So I've got that layer on there. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to attach my stars to the front of my card. And I'm just going to use some snail adhesive to do that. And I'm going to angle the star. I'll angle it this way so it doesn't hang over the edge of my card. Like so. And I can curl up the edges a little bit, which will make it really nice. And then I have, if you recall, the other star that's I die cut out of baked brown sugar, and I'm going to bring this in and my sponge with the cherry cobbler ink one more time. And I'm going to add a fair bit of cherry cobbler to that. And then I am going to add it to the center of the cherry cobbler star. And that will complete my card. And there we go. I have an amazing card for an amazing person in my life. For a complete listing of the supplies that I used to make this card and the measurements for the cardstock layers, please hop on over to my blog, www.nutsaboutsstamping.com. While on my blog, make sure you're a newsletter subscriber. I have a brand new 2015 edition coming out this week with 3 new project ideas from the Occasions catalog. You're not going to want to miss that. I've got a great tool tip for using your thinlits and your Big Shot that you won't want to miss. You can check out my online clubs that I have running now. You can ask me a question, or you can purchase an order by using the Shop Now button on my blog. I'm Terry. I'm nuts about stamping. See you next time. Bye for now.